Y'all, it has already been a week and it is only Tuesday. But so much news has happened, and I am so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you for the safe travel wishes. Clearly, I arrived back in New York um, safe and sound. And so we have a lot to cover today. And it is Town Hall Tuesday. So make sure that you are prepared for the end of the show with your questions and all that good stuff. So without further ado, my dear friends, let's get into it. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Grab your cocktails and your mocktails. It's time to go. Hello, dear friends. I am so excited to be back with all of you today. My apologies. It is the end of the year, which means that I am all over the place trying to close out work for the year with so many different projects going on and things. And so super excited to be back today. And I want to jump right in because I have a lot of feelings about the news with regard to the United Healthcare shooter, Luigi Mangione. And I think that it's really important for us to unpack what is happening as opposed to admonish people for feeling the way that they do, as I'm seeing all throughout mainstream corporate media. And so, you know, some and we Waj and I talked about this on Democracy-ish on Friday, and I think that it's worth a deeper dive conversation here on the Danielle Moodie Show, because what I said on the thumbnail for today's show is welcome to the United States of dystopia, where it is on one hand, right, we're being told that how depraved we are, right? How depraved some people are for celebrating the murder of a CEO of a major healthcare company that is responsible for denying 32% of the health coverage claims that are put in. 31.5 million people who have United Healthcare have been denied coverage. So you pay into this company that is worth, I believe, $370 billion. You pay in, right? And yet 30%, 32% of those that need coverage are denied. But you're still paying, but you're denied. And so Brian Thompson's death, while tragic, how is it not tragic that millions of Americans whose coverage was denied probably also died from their illnesses, from not receiving the surgeries that they needed or medicine that they needed? How is that not a larger conversation? And so I find it extraordinary when you have people like Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania saying that those that are celebrating or cheering or making light of this death are somehow depraved. And I'm like, all America does is celebrate murderers. So let us get it. Like, let's be really fucking clear. All America does is celebrate murderers and rapists, right? You look at our history You look at those that have marble statues built for them. And we're supposed to believe like, oh, for how many years, how many decades, how many centuries were we celebrating the lie of Christopher Columbus discovering America? It wasn't until, right, like that people started to question, how do you discover a land where people already exist? Not to mention things that were left out of the celebration of Christopher Columbus Day were his own words about the indigenous population that he discovered and how fucking racist and disgusting and depraved of a human being he was, in his own words. We are told to celebrate the founding fathers of this great country who owned other people, who raped Black enslaved women, who bore their children, and depending on their complexion, depending on their melanin, were either put out to the fields to work and considered property or allowed to be in the house. Now, throughout my learnings through school, I was told, well, that was just how it was. Those were just the times, Danielle, and you can't judge, right, history through a current lens. Really? Because it says a lot about who we are as a people when we decide who we're going to lift up and celebrate and who we're going to condemn. So, Luigi Manigione is a suspected shooter who killed Brian Thompson. What we are learning about Luigi is that he too is a wealthy white man who killed another wealthy white man. You kill one person, you're a murderer. Apparently, you kill tens of thousands, you can be president or prime minister. So tell me why I must look at Luigi and say, oh my God, how awful, you're a murderer. But when I look at Benjamin Netanyahu, I'm supposed to see what exactly? When I look at Joe Biden, who's supplying the weapons that are killing tens of thousands of men, women, and children in broad daylight and at midnight, I'm supposed to say that that murder is justified and necessary, but somehow the alleged murder that Luigi put out somehow was not. You cannot tell me on one hand that murdering one person is bad, but murdering tens of thousands or millions is okay. Depravity is depravity. Respect for human life is respect for human life. So if you are a governor or a president and you are telling the people that how dare you have these types of reactions, what has happened to humanity? I have been asking what has happened to humanity. You're telling me that we should overlook the millions that are dying and suffering, whether it be in Gaza or in Syria or in Iran or in the Congo, because of how we've decided to categorize who is worthy of your empathy and who is not? These are the questions that we actually need to unpack, not admonish other people for their reactions. Every single American has a story with regard to our inhumane, draconian healthcare system. Everyone has a story, whether it was them that fell ill or a loved one that fell ill, and then if they survived, were now bankrupt or on the edge of poverty, or having to rely on the kindness of strangers in a GoFundMe. Because our government does not see fit to have healthcare coverage for all people. And they put premiums on our lives and tell us that if you so happen to be born with a pre-existing condition, then my God, we might as well throw you away. And you aren't worthy of coverage. You're going to die anyway. So we've been told and lied to about the exceptionalism of America. And yet, as we continue to learn and challenge the things that we've been taught, we're told to go back to sleep. Now you're too woke. You're too conscious. Go back to sleep. Be a good sheep. If we are not questioning the systems that we are locked into that are costing people their lives and their livelihood, then we are asleep. I find no comfort in anyone's death, in anyone's murder. But don't tell me that one should be admonished and the other should be celebrated. Amnesty International proclaimed 2 weeks ago that what has been happening in Gaza is a genocide. You didn't need Amnesty International or the ICC, the international courts, to tell you what you are seeing with your own eyes is a tragedy. October 7th was a tragedy that cost over 1,000 women and children their lives. Does one tragedy justify then 50,000 lives? And we're supposed to sit back and say to those young people protesting on their college campuses, how dare you? How dare you be conscious? How dare you care about humanity? But somehow I'm supposed to lift up the life of one multimillionaire CEO? And I'm supposed to what? Sit in my home and cry about a man who was doing insider trading and denied millions of people coverage? Give me a fucking break. We are depraved as a society. And no, folks, we can't say, oh, not me, not me, not me. We all carry in us both light and darkness. Our humanity is situational. It is environmental. If I have all of my needs met, then I'm operating on a different plane. But if my needs are not being met, as a matter of fact, if my needs are being deprived, then how I cope and deal inside of that situation says more about the environment that I am in and the system that I am a product of than it does about whether or not I understand morality. So, folks, I say this often. that we are living in extraordinarily dark times, but these times are actually not new. They are cyclical because humanity continues to need to repeat lessons that continue to be whitewashed and sane-washed. That's why we have to repeat them, because we're never told the truth. We're never taught the truth. Because if we were, we wouldn't be here in this place. So, folks, I say this, that it is wild, right? To have been on social media the past couple of days and see the postings that people have made and the memes. And in New York City, there was a lookalike contest, right? That was happening. And I will say this. That is a sign of the times. It is a sign of the times that we are living in. And so we need to actually question society as opposed to and the larger systems and structures that are at play here than we do what people are posting, because it is symptomatic of something so much larger than these two people. I do this every time. I have no idea why this keeps happening. Make sure, am I still here? I just want to make sure that you all still see me, that I am still here. Um, do you all please? Okay, good. Um, I apologize. And I know that there are folks, I know that there are a considerable amount of, I think, things that are happening in the chat right now. And I do not have the ability to make a new moderator at this moment. So if you see people that are saying and doing things, know that I am also, as well as Susan, that is in there trying to remove people, but lift up the good conversations that are happening in there, as opposed to getting distracted by those that have come to do nothing other than spread bullshit and nonsense. Okay, my apologies. So here are some of the headlines that have come out. A man was murdered in cold blood and you're laughing. This was in the New Yorker. And I have to say that there was one piece that I thought was absolutely poignant. And if you have the opportunity, I encourage you to go on to Blue Sky, because I reposted the piece there. But it is on Zeteo on Mehdi Hassan's page, his site. So this is the piece. Two 26-year-olds, one killed a homeless man, another is suspected of killing a healthcare CEO. Danielle Penny, and if you were in New York, this story really did hit because Danielle Penny is a 26-year-old white man who killed a Black homeless man who was also in his 20s, who was in the midst of a mental health crisis. Danielle Penny put him in a chokehold and killed him. And recently, he got off. And I had a lot of fucking feelings about the fact that this vigilante could be on a subway, this white man, and say that he was protecting others and kill another man and that be okay. And some have called him a hero. And I'm saying to myself, tell me how, right? So this is part of the piece. On Monday, 26-year-old Daniel Penny was acquitted after killing Jordan Neely, a desperate Black homeless man, on the subway on the grounds that he was trying to protect others. On the same day, police detained 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, who is suspected of killing the CEO of a company that has denied thousands of life-saving healthcare claims. Penny walks free after killing a man victim to the system. What will be the verdict for Mangione, who is suspected of killing a man symbolic of it? They go on to write this. As many have remarked, Brian Thompson's tenure as CEO of insurance giant United Healthcare was grisly. Thompson, alongside other higher-ups, allegedly conducted insider trading, selling millions of dollars of stock upon learning that the Department of Justice reopened an antitrust investigation into United Health. While the company was on an upward profit swing, it has been awash in allegations and revelations of limiting mental health care coverage via algorithm, denying healthcare services needed after hospitalization at drastic rates via artificial intelligence, and denying insurance claims at a starkly high rate. A gun killed Thompson. Paperwork has killed thousands. And honestly, I want to sit with that for a moment. Because what was articulated in this piece is a really hard truth to swallow. Sickness and death in this country are profitable to a select few. They care so little about our health and well-being that they have given it over, these claims, to AI and to an algorithm rather than actual humans to process whether or not these claims are necessary. Tell me how AI can understand stage 4 cancer that is eating away at your loved one, that you are watching die, and you don't have the money to be able to lessen their pain. Tell me how an algorithm can understand your child being diagnosed with a curable heart defect, but the surgery is not going to be covered by your health insurance. They'd rather prescribe medication that keeps them just sick enough because it's cheaper. This is the insane system that Americans are living inside of. And we have been told that there is no other way. Meanwhile, other wealthy, industrialized nations have had universal health care for decades. And guess what? Their countries still fucking operate. But they have decided to prioritize the health and well-being of their citizens rather than, let's say, the fucking Pentagon. Do you know how many billions of dollars we have sent to bomb, mutilate, and destroy entire people? Like, folks, I gotta say, it is what we have been told that we have to deal with, that we have to exist under, is all a fucking scam. The bullets that, the shell casings of the bullets that killed Brian Thompson deny, right? What was it? Deny, somebody tell me what it was, or otherwise I will Google it. But it was 3 words that the insurance companies use all the time. Let me look it up. Because again, folks were deny, delay, depose. I like, folks, this is what they say to the millions of people who pay into a healthcare system that has the ability to deny coverage while paying their CEOs tens of millions of dollars. It is blood money. It's blood money. But we're told to live with it. And we're told not only to live with it, but to worship the capitalistic system that produces it. Because money is more important than people's lives. And so long as war is profitable, so long as people can profit from the making of their tanks and their bullets and their private securities and this, that, and the other thing, the longer war will persist. We've been lied to and told that America only goes into countries to preserve democracy. Bullshit. America goes and invades countries to extract their resources and to deny the people in those countries, right, the ability to self-actualize, to self-determine. So I go back to saying, why were people laughing? So that they don't fucking cry. That's why. They're not depraved. They've been beaten down and broken by a system that was created off of pain and suffering. And so for a moment, Americans united around our common pain and struggle, which is staying well in a country that profits off of your sickness. So am I going to applaud Luigi? No, I'm not. But then don't ask me to applaud Netanyahu or Biden either. Don't tell me that this person's death is justifiable while this one deserves mourning. Because I beg to fucking differ. Speaking of which, dear friends, um, during this Mercury retrograde, a lot of shifting and falling of empires is happening. And most recently, Syria's dictator, Assad, has fled. The rebels have taken over, and 3 million displaced Syrians are returning home, which is a reminder that no one wants to be a refugee. No one wants to flee their homeland. Because given the opportunity to live in your country free, safe, and healthy, who would not choose that? And people are saying, well, why do they think that anything is going to be different? Right? It's the rebel forces that are taking over. Folks, they've lived under conditions that only exist inside of our nightmares currently. They have lived in a country with a dictator who gleefully killed his own people, who has no care or concern for his people. Does that sound familiar? Because it should. And so, this is what is said. Assad was shooting us, killing us. I will return to Syria now. Thank God the war is over. Assad's fall has sparked widespread joy among Turkey's 3 million Syrian refugees, with many taking to the streets of Istanbul and others to cities to celebrate. On Sunday, Syrians removed the government's flag from the Syrian consulate in Istanbul, replacing it with the opposition's flag. What this reminds us all, or should remind us all, is that all any of us want is to live free. All any of us want is to exist outside of the boxes and categories and hierarchy that those in power place on others. All anybody wants is to live free inside of their skin, in their country. And we have to ask ourselves, why do we continue to categorize, to dehumanize, and despise other people? Why is it so hard to see each other's humanity? I don't need to know you to care about you. I don't need to share your religion to wish you well. I don't need to have the same relationship that you do to know that you should experience love as well. So, what we are seeing and experiencing and living in right now is the universe asking us who we want to be. I want to be human and have a full, complete, beautiful, terrifying, tragic human experience of loving and losing, of my choosing, though. So I will end the Danielle Moodie show today with this, something that wore heavy on my heart when I woke up this morning, which was to the news of the passing of the extraordinary poet, writer, teacher, Nikki Giovanni, whose work I was introduced to when I was 16 years old by my poetry teacher in high school. And I will share just a quick reflection, which is I went to a 96% white school, grew up in a incredibly white community, and grappled with and tried to understand my Blackness not through the white gaze, but through my own reflection. And my poetry teacher, a white man named Mr. Leogrand, said to me one day in class, Danielle, go to the library and check out Nikki Giovanni. And now, folks, I'm 16 years old and I don't know nothing. And I'm looking at this man and I'm saying, why in God's name are you telling me to go to the library to check out an Italian poet? And so I did. And I discovered the brilliance of Nikki Giovanni, who put into words the beauty and the struggle, the joy and the pain, the grief and the immense complexity of Blackness, and what it meant to be a Black woman. And so when I woke up to the news of her passing today, my spirit has been so heavy. And I spent the afternoon, instead of searching for headlines and news, and I rewatched for like the millionth time, Nikki Giovanni's conversation in 1971 with James Baldwin. It is on YouTube. So I encourage you to put into your search Nikki Giovanni, James Baldwin conversation. It is an hour and 56 minutes of absolute fucking brilliance. It is so unnerving in its clarity, in their clarity. And so I encourage you, if you have no idea who I am talking about, to go to a library or a bookstore and check out Nikki Giovanni, a incredible force that passed at 81 years old from her third bout with cancer. And, you know, I will read this by her. The world is not a pleasant place to be. The world is not a pleasant place to be without someone to hold and be held by. A river would stop its flow if only a stream were there to receive it. An ocean would never laugh if clouds weren't there to kiss her tears. The world is not a pleasant place to be without someone. And to that I say, rest in exquisite power to Nikki Giovanni. So with that, my dear, dear friends, let us jump into our Town Hall Tuesday. All right, damn nation. Questions. I do ask that you write question in capital, the word, before you actually ask a question so that it can catch my eye and I'm able to answer it. So we'll go from here. Question. 15 Democrats voted for HR 9495. WTF, Danielle? Where do we find real Democratic leadership? And not in this Democratic Party. And for those that are wondering what HR 9495 is, it is a piece of legislation I talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show, that would allow the president of the United States to designate a nonprofit organization as a terrorist organization. The purpose being that they thought that initially it would be to declassify a 401c3 tax exempt, which is nonprofit status, from organizations that wanted to support Gaza and support the Palestinian people. Then, when Donald Trump is elected president, they realize, oh shit, if we do this, Donald Trump could do that to Planned Parenthood. He could do it to any nonprofit organization that he doesn't align with politically, right? So one would think that Democrats would see this as a fucking crisis and not align with the Republican Party. But alas, we have 15 that decided that their hate for Palestinian people and their love of Israel was much more important than, democracy in this country. Wild to me. But so was the fact that Jim Clyburn, Representative South Carolina, establishment Democrat, has said publicly that he believes that Joe Biden should pardon Donald Trump in order to give the country a clean slate. We should pardon a serial fucking criminal. You can't make this shit up. And it is the reason I've said multiple times now, how? Where do we go? Because the Democratic Party clearly is not built for this moment. How do you look at Donald Trump and the charges, the insurrection, the stolen documents, the adjudicated rapist, and say to yourself, he deserves a pardon because that's how the country moves forward, as opposed to, holding a lawless motherfucker accountable for their crimes like any other normal country would. But alas, dear friends, Democrats make it hard to call myself a Democrat. Question. Do you meditate or have a spiritual practice of some kind? You just seem very grounded, connected, and have profound insights into the bigger picture. So just wondering. Well, thank you, Fran. I'm glad that it appears that way. No, I do have, as people know who listen to my show, my mother is a yogi and owns a yoga studio. And so I, by virtue of her and my sister, who is also a yoga teacher, I think probably am a bit more grounded. But during COVID is when I actually started a regular meditation practice and walking and like a prayer practice as well. So yeah, I do pray, I do meditate on a daily basis. I do walk and connect with nature, connect with ancestors. I have found a spiritual practice to be really helpful, particularly during, really dark times. And it has really saved my mental health in a lot of ways. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Question. Aren't the Syrian rebels a tangent of ISIS? Maybe they are swearing off the radicalism, but aren't they? Have you heard that at Danielle Moodie? Really good question. I say this often. I am not a expert in foreign affairs at all. What I do know is that rebel forces are, depending on who, folks, it's always like dependent on who gets to write the history and tell the stories, dependent on who one person's terrorist is another person's savior, one person's rebel is another person's radical. So I don't know. And but I do know that whatever it is that they are is not as bad as what was, hence why so many people, tens of thousands of people, of Syrians, are headed back to their country. So I would assume that if it was an ISIS type, maybe they wouldn't be so eager to go back. And even still, maybe what they know about ISIS is not as bad as what Assad had been doing. So that I will do more research on that. Question. What can we do to draw attention to the rage addiction that's infecting so many of us? Oh, that's a good question. Rage addiction. Find what grounds you. But I think that rage to a certain extent is incredibly useful. Rage is a tool, right? If you can find the right avenue for your rage to release it, then it is a good thing, right? Rage is what got people to fight and abolish slavery. Rage is what got, women their rights. So I don't necessarily think that rage is a bad thing, but I think that staying in a state of rage is going to be detrimental. So you have to be able to navigate the waves as they come. But I do find that rage is a useful tool. Question. What happened to the hippies? Would the world be a better place if they came back? I think that every generation must have their hippies. I have no idea because that predates me. But I would assume that every generation has their people that do believe in free love and all of humanity. And what happened to them? They, got roped into capitalism, is what happened to them. That's, they grew up into a system that said that the more that you have, the better that you are. And they put down their free love signs and picked up briefcases and became yuppies. That's what happened. The sad truth. Do you think the reaction on B. Thompson would be different had the shooter been a person of 100%? Yes, 1,000%. I do think that it would be different. Also the coverage, right? Calling them a thug, calling them this, that, and the other thing. And then every, black man being harassed and questioned by police would have happened in New York City. So yes, I do think that the reaction would have been different. Where did you get that fabulous blouse? I think that this came from Splendid. So you can check them out, and it's a bodysuit as well. So it's not just like a blouse. But thank you. I'm glad you like it. Question. Let's see. Question. Do you believe all this media and the hypervisibility of fringe people is causing the result of more violent young men, i.e., the two murders that happen? It's one of those things like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like, is society more violent? Or do we cover it more? Right? Like, we know that the saying goes, what bleeds leads, right? So if the media were only covering good things, they believe that they wouldn't sell papers and they wouldn't, there would be no one watching cable news. So it's hard to say. I often wonder. I remember growing up, And like kidnapping was a really big thing, right? Like it was always like, you're going to be kidnapped, be careful. And you were told not to get into cars with strangers and this, that, and the other thing. And then I was just like, what happened to that? Like, why did we stop talking about like kidnapping? Was it just because a couple of high profile kidnappings happened and then it was like everybody's going to be so I honestly, I really don't know. But I don't believe that there are more, right? It's just how we cover it and why we cover it. Those are my thoughts. Um uh let's see. This is a funny question. Do you think MAGA realizes if Mexico were annexed, as T suggested, those immigrants would become legal voting citizens? They're not that bright. So no, I don't think that they would realize it. I'm going to take about 2 more questions. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, do you think Biden will blow off and ignore Clyburn's insane suggestion of a pardon for Trump? You know, unfortunately, nothing would surprise me at this point in time, because I wish that I wasn't so disgusted by the selfies that Biden took with Trump. I wish I wasn't so surprised with him saying welcome back to the White House. And so it would not surprise me if he decided to, if he got pressure and said, what about your legacy? And this will, bode well because you pardon your son. So, I mean, if he did it, like, my God, I think that there would be hell to pay. So I don't know, but maybe people are just too complacent and angry. I have no idea. Um, Question, and this is going to be my last question of the day. Does history hold all the lessons on how to defeat rising fascism? Or is this era so different from past fascism that new strategies and tactics need to be found to counter it? That is a question, boy. I think that history holds a lot of lessons. I think that there is actually not a lot that is new under the sun. I think that the fascism that we are seeing now and the authoritarianism that we're seeing rise up now is not very different from what we've read about throughout history. I think that the mechanisms that they're using, like bots and, disinformation and misinformation coming through social media platforms, that of course is new because the technology is new. But the lack of care and the absolute contempt for humanity is not new, right? We've seen this before. So I do think that if we were to really understand and know our history, both American history and world history, then we would find a lot of tools inside of that history, which is why folks, they want to ban books and change curriculum and do all of these things that they are doing, because education and knowledge really is power. Um, and so I don't think that this is new, right? I think that it is very, very old, like centuries old. And we're going to continue to repeat it until we decide that we want something as a world, as a people, as humans that is different. All right, my friends, if you are going to be watching this later, do put some questions in the comment section and I will do my best to get to them. And as I say often on here, I am so appreciative for all of you who provide donations. As I am an independent. I do not make money on this. I do it because I care and because I think that independent media is frankly better, more honest, and has more integrity than corporate mainstream media that is clearly bought out. And so I genuinely appreciate every single dollar that is sent my way. So thank you. Thank you. And also, if you are liking these shows and you are liking these episodes, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the little fairies inside of the algorithm get the show in more people's feeds. And of course, liking and subscribing, more viewers, bigger community, more change. So I do thank you all so much for showing up. I will be back tomorrow. Uh Tomorrow, thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. I wish you all a happy and healthy and good evening. And yeah, please do consider sharing this episode with thank you so very much, with your friends and your family. Get it out there. um I appreciate you. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, stay safe. See you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.